Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of America First Insight Unfiltered. Today is episode 3. We got a few good topics to go ahead and talk about. We're going to be talking about Texas, Trump's popularity, and we're also probably going to pick up on his cabinet picks a little. I'm here with my co-host, Real. Real, why don't you get us started?
Hello, everybody. So, there's a lot of stuff going on today. I really want to discuss what's happening in Texas because it just happened today. Now, for those that don't know, there was a speakership election in the Texas House of Representatives, and, to say that it was a disaster for Republicans is an understatement. Now, a reminder, Republicans have a majority in the legislature. It's by like 12 or 15 seats, so you would think that they should be able to pick any speaker they want. Well, the rhinos in the state legislature just made a deal with Democrats on a compromise candidate.
Yep. It was
in Texas.
The compromise candidate was Burroughs, I think from the Panhandle, if I'm correct. So he's in a deep red state. So for a little bit of background, there was a big battle in the Texas state legislative earlier where their previous speaker of their state house, Dave Phelan, I believe is his name.
Yep, it fell on.
He went ahead and in a really Republican state would put Democrats in charge of like committees, which basically gives Democrats way more power than they deserve for being in the minority party. I don't think there's a single state legislative where Republicans are in charge of committees when Democrats have the majority. So there was a whole ordeal. There were calls to primary him, and eventually, I think he survived. But did he survive his election?
Yeah,
I remember.
I believe he barely survived, but then he was forced down anyways.
Yes, he barely survived, but then he did not run for speaker because he did not have the votes. I do remember that part. So the next thing that happened was the GOP caucus voted for who they should put up for speaker. It came between David Cooks and Burroughs. Cook eventually won the internal debate. So this was just GOP members. Cook won, and Cook is the more conservative member between the two, while Burroughs basically promised to do the same things Phelan did. You know, this would involve blocking school choice, putting Democrats, letting Democrats have a bigger seat at the table than they deserve for being the minority in the state legislative. And it had been, this vote was about a month ago, I'd say, after their elections. And then today, the actual election for speaker happened on the floor where everyone, including Democrats, got to vote. And lo and behold, Burroughs unfortunately won.
Yeah, every single Democrat, or at least like 95% of them, voted for Burroughs. And a minority of Republicans voted for him. So that should tell you everything. That this was Democrats and rhinos working together to force this garbage pick. Which, by the way, these same people, if this was the other way around where, the Freedom Caucus or whatever, they lost their eternal vote, they would be demanding that they vote for their candidate. But now it's like, they just work with Democrats now. It's like, wait, what? Well, why do you have to make a backroom deal with Democrats to get your candidate through? You lost the eternal vote. I thought that was the whole process, like, you have the eternal vote, then you vote on the official ballot. But I guess it doesn't matter to these people, I guess?
No, it doesn't matter to moderates. Come on. They only follow the rules when it benefits them. That's the whole thing. And the worst part about all this, right? Texas is what? R plus, was it 12, 15, 17 this election? Something high. It swung massively to the right. So this is a really Republican state. It was our biggest net gain of voters, or raw net gain of voters out of all 50 states. And now we're going to have moderate Republicans and Democrats who, obviously none of the Democrats are moderate, running the state house.
Yeah.
Which it's just very sad to see. Look at Minnesota, right? Republicans have a one-person majority in the Minnesota House of Representatives. They only have that because one of the Democrats got disqualified because he lied on official paperwork. So a Democrat will fill that seat shortly. But even in Minnesota, with a one-person majority, all the Republicans managed to sit down and elect a Republican for the Speaker of the House, which I don't think Democrats can get rid of for 2 years, which is going to hinder the Minnesota Democratic Party for a while.
I mean, this is just insane to think that Republicans worked with that. Like, we're not talking about, oh, it was just 1 or 2 Republicans. It was like a couple dozen, just because that their candidate lost the internal vote. I mean, this is just insane. And like you said, we're not talking about some Democrat state like Massachusetts. This is Texas. And we had to settle with a moderate, and now you gave Democrats a leverage. Now they control everything. Democrats control everything in the state legislature now. Because these idiots don't understand that, oh wait, you making Democrats vote for you, you give them the leverage. They control everything now, at least as of now. Now, theoretically, you could maybe get rid of this guy down the line, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be one of those things you get rid of next week. He's stuck there for a while, unless we primary him out in 26, more than likely. But even then, it's like, the fact we even have to talk like this about having a moderate like Burroughs in charge in Texas and R plus 15 states? What is R plus 15? 14?
Yeah, it's somewhere around there. I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head. It's ridiculous. That's what it is. It's such a sign that moderate Republicans, and it's in all our forms of branches of government, they would rather side with Democrats than side with real America First conservatives, which should tell you their priorities,
Yeah. And this guy's openly anti-school choice like Phelan, I believe. So
Yes.
What was the point? What was the point of electing this guy? And I really want to know why Republicans in Texas keep electing people like this. And yeah, this is part of the Panhandle, I believe, that he's from.
Yes, yeah, he is from the Panhandle. I actually saw a letter from one of the state house representatives who was a freshman, and the only reason she voted for Burroughs was to give the Panhandle unprecedented power, because I think she's also from the Panhandle, which is ridiculous because he doesn't really represent the Panhandle. I'm sure most of the voters in Texas, especially GOP voters, want school choice. People generally love the idea of school choice. It's been popular everywhere it's been passed. And Burroughs and Phelan were like one of the leading people to be anti-school choice in Texas.
I mean, didn't Phelan literally put like Democrats to start in front of like the education committee in charge of it?
Yeah, if I recall correctly. That was the biggest thing with Phelan, and probably the only reason he had national attention is because he was giving committee chairs. And when you're a committee chair, most bills have to go through a committee before they can go through the floor. And committee chairs kind of get to pick which bills said committees get to vote on. So by putting Democrats in charge of committees like that, you end up with Democrats in charge of which bills get to the floor, which is why school choice didn't pass in Texas.
This is idiotic. This is stupid that we're even talking about, like, Democrats control the state legislature now. Let's just say that's what happened here. Democrats have everything controlled now in Texas, at least in the state house. Now, the state senate, it sounds like they're not happy about this. I believe Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas, an actual conservative, he's not happy about this in the state senate. So
good. He shouldn't be happy. No one should be happy about
hopefully
this situation.
They force this guy out. But it's like, if you can't beat Dade Phelan, who had basically the entire Republican Party against him, I don't think you'll be able to beat this guy for a while. I don't know how. I mean, you could maybe, but
I think it's going to really depend on how much attention the state legislative is going to get next cycle. Here at AFI, we're going to be looking into helping out the people who are looking to primary those who are considering themselves moderate Republicans who voted for Burroughs over Cook. They broke with their party to help empower Democrats. They shouldn't be elected anymore. It's simple as. I'm sure if you go tell the voters this type of info, oh, we didn't get school choice passed. Oh, we didn't get property taxes lowered because I voted for a speaker who allowed Democrats to block those type of things. They can lose. It's a question of money and where people are going to be caring. I think Texas might become heavily watched, especially if someone like, Ken Paxton decides to primary out Cornyn. A lot of eyes are going to be put on Texas, which can affect down ballot races, down ballot primaries, and whatnot.
I mean, I think Pax is going to run. That's just my take on it, but maybe he doesn't. But I think Cornyn's going to get a primary challenger either way. It's a matter of if Paxton actually does run. Hopefully he does. I think he's our best candidate there, but
He's probably the most America First guy
Yeah.
in Texas in that sense, besides a couple congressmen who aren't going to risk a run like that.
Yeah, so I hope the Republicans of Texas, and they've gotten better going after these people. Like, I think they took down like 7 or 8 of them in 24.
Yes, they did. And a big reason, the big theme they used to kick those people out was school choice. Texans really want school choice, and it keeps getting blocked.
Which is just stupid. I mean, this is Texas, for crying out loud. Even a bunch of Democrats support school choice, so I don't get what the whole thing's about.
I don't know I don't know enough about Texas internal politics that such a large commanding portion of the GOP is against school choice there.
So yeah, according to Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, this is what he says he wants to get done this session: school choice, ban of taxpayer-funded lobbying, bail reform, election integrity, putting the 10 Commandments back in schools, banning critical race theory, and banning ownership of Texas land by foreign adversaries, or ownership of land. So I don't think any of that's going to pass with this guy. I mean, I don't see any of this stuff passing. It would be nice.
He'll pass like 1 or 2 of those in like late 2025, so he has an issue to run on, and so he doesn't lose the primary.
Yeah, probably bail reform, maybe. Other ones I'm reading
I
here.
think that I'm going to assume that's good bail reform, not the Democrat version of bail reform.
Well, according to Patrick, he says he wants to keep dangerous murderers and rapists off our streets. That's what he said. So,
so good bail reform.
Yeah. As for the other ones, so it would be nice, but with Burroughs, I mean, you're getting just a lateral with Phelan. But even then, it might be worse because now you got Democrats that voted for him. And they're the reason he's in the speakership position now. So
yeah, and Democrats are going to be rewarded for voting for him. I guarantee they're going to be getting committee chairs, probably a lot, and actual good conservatives are going to be blocked out of committee chairs, which is it's just sad to see.
In Texas, I mean, after Trump won by 14,
Ohio used to have this problem, I think too, but I think Ohio cleaned up their state legislative. I think this was a while ago. I could be misremembering. The only other state I can think where something similar to this is happening that I know of off top of my head is Alaska, but that's because like half of Alaska's state legislative is technically independents.
Alaska, that's a whole different can of worms.
Alaska politics sounds like a bucket of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 15 different parties that actually could win seats. It's a mess in Alaska. But yeah, this is one of the only ones outside of like Ohio a couple years ago where this crap happens in. But hopefully Republicans realize that this was a bad idea, but I don't think they will. I think they're either the stupidest people on earth or very corrupt. They're probably both. But hopefully they get this stuff through by not counting on it. So if you live in Texas, probably should focus on the races next year. Be rid of these people.
Yeah,
get rid of every single one of them.
Yep, and we'll, like I said, here at AFI, we're going to go ahead, we're going to look into who's going to be running against all the squishy moderate Republicans, because I think most of the squishy moderate Republicans are not, like, in light seats. They're mostly in, like, much more Republican seats. Like, Burroughs himself, I'm pretty sure represents, like, probably an R50 panhandle seat. It might be more than R50, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't know the specifics myself, but yeah, no, Texas, very disappointing result. We endorsed Cooks and kind of hoping, it seemed like for a bit he might have had the votes while people were awaiting everyone to announce who they're going to vote for, but sadly just wasn't enough.
That's a sizable majority. I believe this is, if you combine the amount of Democrats and Republicans that had voted for it, I think it was 88 in total. And I think Republicans right now have like 87 in the state legislature. So, yeah, that should tell you everything. There's like 20 Republicans and all the Dems.
Yeah, it's just sad and dumb, but you know, we'll have to see. It'll hopefully make the 26 primaries in Texas interesting, at least from a state legislative perspective.
But I wonder how much more can you do? I mean, they cleaned up House a lot in 24. But it's still not enough.
Clean up more House. I mean, it's really an issue of money, especially in those really much more local races. even like $100,000 goes a really long way in being able to get your name out there. So kind of depends, someone like Turning Point USA decides to throw like $2 million spread carefully, they could probably knock a few people out.
Hopefully. I mean, you have to. Yeah, get rid of these people.
Because at least at the state house level, it's not that many people you need to convince. State senates are always far more difficult, and you don't need that much money, truthfully, to be able to primary out these people. It's just a question of whether certain PACs are even willing to get involved, because it's just not very sensical for them. They have bigger, better things to be focused on, congressional primaries, Senate primaries, that type of stuff. That's the only reason these people manage to keep slipping by.
And plus, you got Democrats voting, which for those that don't know, in Texas, they have open primaries. So in these safe Republican seats, Democrats don't vote in the primary. They vote in the Republican primary to vote for some moderate, squishy Republican. That's what happens every single time. And it hurts, especially in runoffs, where it's like, it doesn't matter what Democrats do. So I think that's another thing Republicans got to do. Get rid of the open primary system. Especially in Texas, you got to get rid of it. You cannot have Democrats voting in these races and, screwing people over. If it wasn't for that, there's a good chance that people like Tony Gonzalez would have lost. In his
100%. Primary. I mean, he only won by like a few thousand votes, I think. It might have been even less. Yeah. And, I mean, this always happens, and it happens especially in super red areas where Democrats, who typically are of a higher propensity.
High propensity.
They're much more involved, kind of. So I'm not going to say smarter, but they're more willing to go ahead, swap their party just to vote in a primary.
Well,
like even when I lived in New York City, I could have swapped to the Democratic primary to go vote for like a better mayor candidate, but I would never do that because that's not something I'd be willing to do. I wouldn't ever call myself a registered Democrat, but a Democrat has no problem being a registered Republican for like 3 months out of the year just to vote in a primary.
The worst part is they're not even registered as a Republican because they don't even have parties down there.
Oh yeah, you don't need. Yeah, you guys are. Yeah, they're fully open or whatever. Yeah,
they're fully open, so it's even worse. So you could vote in the Democrat primary the first round and then vote for the Republican in the runoff. That's what happened a bunch. And I think there's that special election that happened a couple years ago. I can't remember which one. It was one of the House races. And the MAGA Republican was going to win, but then it was 2 Republicans that went to the runoff for the special, and the Democrats voted for the moderate. So you got to deal with that. You got to get rid of that, because how is that fair to the voters? The actual Republican voters in the primary, where these people, they vote in one primary, but the next election they vote for the opposite? For the runoff? When they didn't even vote in the first round?
Yeah, no, those are ridiculous. Because, like, the thing is, like, a primary is, yes, it's like government and it's an election held by the state, but it's clearly like a party decision,
Yeah.
So when you have open primaries, or you have states where you're allowed to like quickly re-register to vote in a primary, and then you can do whatever you want, you're sabotaging the party, and it really only works one way. It only has ever hurt Republicans. I can't come up anywhere where moderate or where Republicans voted for a moderate Democrat in an open primary state. I do not know of any example at all.
I can't think of one. Honestly, can't.
Because even when you have a scenario, I think the only times that ever happens is maybe jungle primaries in California.
Yeah, but jungle primaries
even then,
are a mess.
Most of the time when the Democrats end up being 2 Democrats in runoff, it's like during a midterm year, and Republicans just stay home instead of getting out and vote.
Yeah, there's a lot of things Republicans can do. I think the best system, I think, is what they do in Virginia, where they don't even have a primary system. They do a convention system. I think that's the best system, because we got Glenn Youngkin out of it. If it wasn't for that, we would have never gotten Youngkin in Virginia. We would have probably got that Amanda Chase, I think her name is. So, yeah, it wouldn't have ended pretty, but I think the convention and caucus system's the best, personally. But we just gotta look into it in every state. Every state that's the open primary, especially, look into the convention system like they have in Virginia. They tried it in 21, it worked perfectly. So hopefully,
Yeah,
our
I
state
also
parties
think
adapt it.
I think convention systems also. I don't know, because I do like the idea that, what a primary system represents, allowing people to vote and everything. But the issue is too many people, like already the people who vote in a primary generally know more than people who only vote in generals. But I think it's still too broad, too easily manipulated, maybe is a word, where you can just spend a few $1,000s and convince a bunch of people with yard signs, oh, I've seen that name, I'll vote for him in the primary. Utah had the convention where their incumbent governor lost the convention, but it's not binding, and he went ahead and won the primary.
Yeah, that's not a real convention system. That's just them saying, "Oh yeah, we actually gave you the convention, but it doesn't matter because Democrats in Utah vote Republican." So
yeah, but that's a scenario where like a convention would be nice, because a convention allows only the most politically involved to be. Only the most politically involved people are going to get involved in a convention, which can be really good, because that's how you can clean out house from rhinos. You can ensure that only the really good people get to win.
now it's not always gonna be perfect because, well, again,
No
like
system
Utah,
will ever be perfect.
yeah, with Utah especially, like it goes both ways. Where yeah, it can work, but then the systems, the way they do it in Utah, doesn't really work. So it's just don't do what Utah does. Don't do what they do whatsoever. Do what they do in Virginia. Or I think even Colorado does it. I can't remember for sure, but it's Virginia for sure.
But yeah, I mean that's just a general issue with the open primaries and whatnot. That needs to be fixed, and hopefully Texas, and in 2027, when they hopefully primary out all the moderate Republicans who would rather work with Dems rather than America First conservatives, they can begin solving these issues. But we will see, I guess. So, on to the next topic we wanted to discuss, Trump's popularity and how well it's been going for him since about a month before the election, I would say, is when it began to go up.
Yeah, so there was a poll from Emerson College today, and right now, Trump's at 52% favorable and only 42% unfavorable. This has never happened, ever. Like, I can't find a single poll where it's been this good. That's a plus 10. There was one, I think a couple weeks ago, that was like plus 6 or plus 8, but this is plus 10.
There's been a couple plus 4s recently. Yeah. I'm using the 538 approval website, which I'm thinking I'm going to replace on our homepage. We'll have a Trump approval thing instead of our 2024 prediction, because it's a little out of date. But, yeah, no, you have Trump at 52-42. Now you might be saying to yourself, I got into an argument on Twitter about this where, it's only 52%, favorable. That's not very high favorable. No. 52% favorable is about the same that Barack Obama had the entire, like, for 80% of his presidency, he was anywhere from like 48 to 52, and he's considered like generational, by the Democrats. 52% as Trump, who has never had the media on his side, is really, really amazing to see. This is crazy to me as well.
This is Trump we're talking about. This is someone that, when they talk about favorability, it's more focused on the image of someone, like how people do they like someone? Not necessarily approve of their policy, but do you like Trump? Do you not?
You are 100% correct on this, because there was a bunch of polls during the election cycle where it's like, Trump's favorability is like -10, -15, but then you go and you ask the question, job approval, and he'd be at like +1-ish or like only -2, because people, when they read like a favorable, unfavorable, they almost always answer those polls based on personality or their personal feelings towards the person. And you have to specifically ask job favorability if you want how people are approving of someone's job, unless their job completely overshadows their personality, kind of with Biden, I want to say. I don't know.
I think
the old man shtick worked for a while, but it quickly didn't. And
because people realized
the results.
It was more than just him being old. That's what I got to say to that. But,
yeah.
But I think Trump's favorability, what makes it so insane is, like you said, Obama's was like 52, 55, somewhere in that range. And I'm not...
It was not 55. It was 48 to 52.
Yeah, 48,
he was like the 55, 60s during the start of his presidency, but about 7 months in, it faded.
It tanked. And that's the thing with Obama. People make it sound like, oh, he was beloved throughout his presidency. Not really. Like, yeah, he had a positive favorability, but it was only like at 65% or whatever for like 2 days. And then it tanked.
Yeah.
Because that was when he got in office and everyone was excited and hopeful, and they realized, oh, wait a minute. This guy's a con artist.
It's his same old stick. He had just enough to win re-election, and that was it. But, I mean, Trump being at a similar level to Obama after everything he's gone through, that signifies that something special could be happening. I don't know if he'll stay this high up, but he's off to a way more solid start than he was in 2016.
Which is unusual. This doesn't happen. Usually it's like over time it goes down. Unless after the presidency he goes a little bit higher, but it's like he's about to be in his second term. And everyone has an opinion of Trump. Everyone does. It's not like no one knew who Trump was 5 minutes ago. Everyone has an opinion on the guy. And the fact is, only 42% of Americans are saying they have an unfavorable opinion of Trump. Well, what's his approval going to be? I mean, I'm just being honest. If his favorability is this high, his approval is always like 5 to 6 points at a bare minimum higher.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this on episode 1 with this good of approval rating or favorability rating, which, like you said, generally his approval rating has always been higher than his favorable rating. You know, there's a chance that the 26 midterms could be a lot better than people are kind of giving it credit for. I think we still lose the House, but I'm just saying, I don't think a modern president could be in as good of a position as Trump could be in for midterms.
I mean,
which would be good to see.
I still think Republicans are going to blow it anyways, but, you know, it's not going to be because of Trump. I think Trump's going to be, relatively speaking, popular. That doesn't mean to be like 70% approval. It just means, oh yeah, he's kind of even. Maybe a bit negative, a bit positive, but it's not going to be like his first term where, like, yeah, for a little bit it was like negative 12 or whatever. It's going to be about even for most of it. So...
yeah, I mean, I'm checking, like I said, I'm checking the 538 polling. The last 2 polls that on favorability that I would consider really bad for Trump were Quinnipiac and Ipsos. I've never said that word in my life.
Listen, Reuters,
Reuters, there we go. I've said that word before.
Excuse my French, but the shit pollsters are back. That's what it comes down to. The bad ones are pushing their crap again. I mean, Reuters was awful in 24, and Quinnipiac was, I mean, it's a little bit better here and there, but they still sucked.
Yeah, Quinnipiac Quinnipiac is still an F- on our pollster scorecard, and Reuters is, I think, D-. You know, they're both terrible because those are the same weeks where good pollsters, or better pollsters, let me say, had him at favorable, you know. Yeah, but I mean, hell, I'm even seeing a morning consult poll with Trump with +3 favorability.
Yeah,
that's really bad.
If morning consult's saying Trump +3, take the Reuters poll and throw it out. It's useless. Absolute garbage.
TIPP, YouGov, they're all saying about favorable +1 or 2. You know, Emerson's a bit out there. They have the same favorable. They just have less unfavorables than other pollsters, which could be they might be the only ones with a don't know or unsure. Yeah, and the other ones might not. But
I think that's what's happening. There are a lot of people they're not really liking. Like I still think it's clear a bunch of people are now liking Trump more than ever. It's clear. I mean, it's like
100%. He's more popular than he's ever been before.
Well, I think it's happening now is the stigma surrounding Trump and supporting him is gone. Like, no one cares anymore that you support Trump. It used to be like, 100%. Oh, you have to keep it a secret. You can't say anything about Trump because he was thrown out a window or something. Like, that's
exactly how I felt in New York City. But you don't even feel that. I would, funnily enough, I was at Winn-Dixie recently, and I had a black cashier who was talking about Trump. And he's like, "Oh, dude, I love Trump." And he said, we got to send them all back. And I was dying laughing because I'm like, dude, it's nice to be in an era and in an area where I can see this happening.
Yeah, it's a realignment. I mean, people are realizing that, oh, wait, this is not just the orange man the media said he was. So I think Trump's approval is going to be actually fairly high for a chunk of his presidency, especially compared to Joe, which his approval was good for 5 minutes, but then Afghanistan happened, and, well, it went downhill from there, but...
It's actually insane to me, speaking of Joe Biden's approval. Joe Biden's approval right now is lower than Donald Trump's approval after January 6th, where the entire country hated him, which I think goes to show just how much the fakeness of Democrats and whatnot is just running out. They couldn't do it with Kamala. They can't even keep Joe above a post-January 6th Donald Trump, where the entire nation was very much against him. After January 6th, there were some polls where Trump was barely hitting 30% in favorables.
Yeah, that's a combination of response bias and crappy polls. But yeah, a lot of people were like, yeah, we're done. We're done with this. Time to move on from Trump. But yeah, I mean, this doesn't happen, by the way. It is so rare for a president's approval to go down in the final weeks. It usually goes up.
No. Obama's approval after January in 2017, I think quickly shot up to 60%, where everyone's like, all right, cool. First black president. I guess we have to like him. Let's go on to Trump.
Even in 2008,
let's see what happens.
It happened to Bush. And I know that was because his approval went down 20%, but it still rebounded a little bit in January and December.
Yeah, I think Biden's the only one. I mean, I'll go and look, but I'm pretty sure Biden's the only one where it has continued to plummet after his party's changed.
The only reason it happened with Trump was January 6th. That's the truth in it. That's the only reason.
100%.
If it wasn't for that,
it was about the same. It was about the same pre-January 6th, and then January 6th happened. That's when he got a plummet, and then it stayed really low for a very long time. And then whether pollsters suddenly changed method or the entire country kind of shifted, starting about, it was earlier this year where he started getting some better numbers that were in the low 40s, but it was about October where he suddenly began shooting up,
which coincides with a lot of the podcasts, by the way.
Yeah,
he had a big podcast blitz in September and
October. Coincides with that. It also coincides with people really starting to check into what's happening in the election. September, October, that's when a lot of the general populace who doesn't care for politics starts looking and going, hey, so who am I voting for this year? And yeah, so I'm checking them. Trump went from about -10 favorability at about 43% favorable in September, October, August, to then shooting straight up to right now. They only have him at negative approval by 0.2.
That's with garbage polls. That's with Reuters.
Yeah. That's with Quinnipiac. That's with Reuters. That's with all the garbage ones. So he'll probably enter office with positive approval, even on 538, which 538 is quite terrible at all their polling because their methodology is just garbage.
Well, I think we have to make a favorability meter now. I think we have to track it now.
Yes,
I'll get to work on that. I promise. I know it's been a while since I worked on the pollster thing, but we'll get it done later this month for sure. Hopefully,
it needs to be done before I got to start covering polls for next year's stuff.
Yeah, so
that's when I need the pollster scorecard done.
Yeah, it's I'm working on it. Just it's taking a little bit. Sort through a lot of crap.
But we thank you. I seriously do thank you for the pollster scorecard. It was such a great part of the website. Got a lot of people looking at us and whatnot. People love seeing actual ratings based on data, not all the BS that everyone else does.
For those that don't know, the 538 scorecard's fake. I'm gonna just say that right now. It's completely fake, and it comes down to, okay, who you best friends with. That's a scorecard 538. I think that.
What do you mean it's fake, huh? They only rate their own company the best, while their own company objectively has just terrible polls and never is correct. What? That's not fake. Trust me, it's 100% real.
I think it was ABC News, wasn't it? That was the #1 pollster.
It's ABC News or New York Times is always number one. I think they flip flop occasionally, but they're either of those are always number one. And I think on our own scorecard they're like D- or F.
Yeah, they're
which
garbage.
Our scorecard looks at nothing but the pure numbers and whether they were right or not. I don't care about because a big thing they do is they do a transparency score in quotes that matters so much to them, that you can have terrible results time in, but if your transparency score is high, you're allowed to stay up at the best pollsters, which is completely arbitrary.
When they say transparency score, it's basically who gives them the biggest paycheck. Sorry, but that's the truth. It's corruption. It's bullshit. It's not real. That whole scorecard is fake. It was made up. I still don't know how they made up the numbers. I mean, people are looking into it. It's like, wait, hold up. So you have, I think it's like Trafalgar. Yeah, they had a bad 22, but outside of that, they've been pretty good. They're like a B+ or whatever, a B-. But somehow ABC News, the New York Times, they're wrong every year. They do good once, but they're an A+ because of transparency? What's transparent about the ABC News? They don't release anything. All their crosstabs are kind of hidden. No,
you are 100% right about that. I remember the Atlas Intel guy, who, by the way, they did phenomenal this year, and they're one of the best pollsters.
They're gonna be
they are one of the best pollsters who actually do multiple states, because there are some pollsters who, on paper, are really good, but they only do one state, and really, from year to year, a state doesn't change that much. But Atlas Intel was roasting them so much because he's like, your scorecards are unbelievably just insane, because we're pretty low for being dead on the money for 3 cycles in a row, and that's not counting their foreign polling, which also has been perfect. 100% correct almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was they missed in Brazil by 3 points or something. It's like Brazil or something, and that's it. They missed in.
Yeah, but they're still within margin of error, which ultimately is fine. That statistics, as long as you're within margin of error, is fine. And it's going to be a bit sad when we do our pollster scorecard update, because so many bad companies are going to technically be within margin of error, but that's only because they all tried herding, and they're like, well, please, if we say both have a 50-50 shot at winning, we're technically
don't worry.
wrong.
There is a herding penalty in the pollster scorecard. There was the original one. But it's like, what these pollsters do, it's like, oh, actually, the last second's a 50-50 rate. No, that's bullshit. You had it Harris plus 20 the entire cycle. You can't just say it's tied race now.
Yes.
So there's a herding penalty, but yeah, that should counteract most of that, because I know pollsters, I think, wasn't it Scott Rasmussen, not Rasmussen Reports, the other one? Didn't he have a Harris plus
RMG.
7? RMG Research, yeah. It's it was Harris plus 7 or whatever, then the last day was Harris plus 1. It's that doesn't happen.
I don't think the populace swings as much as some of these pollsters suggest it does, because I'd say 80%, probably closer to 90, especially when it was Trump and Biden. I'd say probably 90% of the population has been locked into who they were going to vote for 8 years ago. That's kind of the thing with Trump. I'll grant there was probably some movement when it switched to Harris, because people don't really know,
and they realize
the youth and whatnot. But guess what? You guys already suck at polling the youth, so I doubt it really mattered that much.
Well, that's another thing. The youth polling, I want to make a whole podcast on that one. That the youth polling was awful this year. They had Harris winning them by 30, I think it was. So
every polling was awful. We'll get to it. Maybe once we do pollster scorecard too, I'll get some
of these pollsters just were awful. But they didn't do so bad on paper because they did the crap of herding at the last minute. Say Trump is up by 1, or it's a tied race. Congratulations, every pollster found that.
Which is ridiculous. Quinnipiac wasn't too bad. They consistently had too bad. They weren't too bad compared to their past selves, because their past selves were like, hey, every swing state's going to be Democrat plus 10, and then they were wrong. But this year at least they said, hey, Trump might win a swing state, which is better.
Yeah,
it's not
good,
a
dead cat balance. Better. It's literally a dead cat balance. They were so bad in 2020. They did better in 24. It wasn't as bad. but some
It's
of
not
those
necessarily
polls,
good.
yeah, because I believe they had I think it was Harris +5 in Pennsylvania still. I could be wrong. It was a swing state. It was still like a ridiculous Harris win.
That's better than, Democrat +10 in all the swing states. That's the good thing. It's about improvement, one step at a time. Soon, maybe by 28, when it's Vance versus Harris, then they'll actually get closer and they'll be like, oh, the swing states might only be Democrat +2. They'll get there. Give them time.
Well, there was one pollster that objectively got worse in 24, and that's Ann Seltzer. But that's I can't wait to see her score on the scorecard. Ann Seltzer's.
Yes, I think she now has enough polls that she gets to be included, which is great, seeming how she retired.
She was originally in it, but it was always like a B-. But it's like after what happened in 24, she may not even be like a C-. She may be a D. That's how bad it was. I mean, that's a 16-point miss. 20-point miss, I think, actually. It was every poll. After
somewhere
September.
19, 16, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. That is crazy. There was so much hype. I've never seen someone throw away their, track record. Another polling group that went ahead and threw away their track record as well was Mass Inc. polling group. Because they had a really good scorecard or score from us. And the only reason they had that is because they only, really polled Massachusetts, which... You can't be too wrong when you poll one state that has voted about the same forever. And then this year, they're like, well, we have a really good rating. Let's start polling swing states. And they were like Democrat plus 3, 4 in all of them, which is just so wrong that's going to hurt them a lot.
And also you had, actually the worst poll is actually in New Hampshire. I think it was Dartmouth. I think it's Dartmouth, I think it is. They had it Harris plus 25. New Hampshire.
Yes, I remember that one. Yeah, when I was giving out the awards, quote awards on AFI for worst pollster, they were runner up for being terrible. But the fact that Seltzer was considered the ultra mega gold standard for prediction elections, even though her miss was slightly less, the damage to her reputation was way more important for getting that award.
Well, it was so obvious what she did. You could argue with the New Hampshire was maybe a mistake. Polls, it's ridiculous, but you could at least argue once in a generation you have a big miss. It happens. But what Ann Seltzer did was so obvious. I mean, she gave the Jamie Pritzker the poll beforehand. They knew about it.
Yes,
they knew exactly that. Did. Yeah, it's a Harris plus 3 in Iowa. How the hell do you know this? It hasn't been released yet, and you're fundraising off of it? And then, the polls haven't done yet? Wait a minute.
Such an obvious sellout or whatever. And then the worst part is when she went to go defend herself, she's like, no, I've just polled the people. I don't weigh anything. Whatever.
No, her response after the election was the best.
Miss.
She claimed, and this is real, people can look this up. She claimed that the only reason Trump won Iowa by 13 was because her poll motivated Trump voters.
So true. So true. I hate people.
Yes, a 20-point miss is because you motivated people. Bull crap. There's no way in hell you could say that's real. And she actually said that. She actually said that as a serious thing.
My favorite part was when she was trying to defend her poll, and she's like, what does the D and R mean? As if that's not come on, you're a pollster. There's only two things in politics that D and R can mean in these scenarios, but... Yeah. She was ridiculous. She clearly, and then she immediately retired. So she got a fat paycheck from someone and said, all right, I'm done.
She retired from Des Moines Register. She's still polling, I believe.
Oh, is she? I thought she retired from polling.
Well, she retired from that, which should tell you everything, but...
Yeah, if we're going to go start up, we're going to go first poll from her new polling company or whatever. Oh, Joni Ernst, the Iowa senator. Oh, she could lose to a generic Democrat by 2 points. Go ahead, spend $10 billion here, Democrats.
Yeah, that's Ann Seltzer's credibility is shot. I'm actually glad it is, because she used to be good, but I always believe she is overrated. People took her way too seriously. It's Iowa, and every time she pulled a race outside of Iowa, she stunk. In 2016, she had Trump losing Florida by 5.
It's pretty bad.
Again, was she a good pollster in Iowa? Yeah. Was she better than a lot of them? Yeah. But I'm starting to wonder, was that because she guessed properly every time?
Yeah, even then, she continually underestimated Trump even then, which, the best pollsters as of recent were the ones who could ID the hidden Trump voter and figure them out, kind of. And she couldn't. She did better than others, but it's not like in a state that red, it's that hard to miss Trump voters.
I still
it's
think
really the swing states where it
still
matters.
think she just guessed. That her polls are full of it. She just guessed like what Trump's gonna win by. Oh, he's gonna win by like 8 points.
Yeah, 8-7 this time. It's cool.
That's what I think happened. I mean, like, there's no explanation for it. It's like, how do you go? And remember, in the summer, she had Trump plus 25 in Iowa, but then it turned to Harris plus 3 in 2 months.
Well, technically, I don't think she released that one.
It was released.
Oh,
it was released on NBC News. It was a national headline. Trump up by 25 on NBC News. And I actually released a video on that. I made a whole video on that entire poll. Talk about this is historical if this happened. This is back in June or July. So, I don't know what she did. She was either full of it, or I don't know. Something happened.
Bad methodology, but don't worry. It's 3-star transparency on 538.
Yeah, perfect transparency, even though J.B. Pritzker knew about it an hour before release. I'm sure that's very transparent.
Yes. But I want to move on to the next and probably last topic. It's the week before inauguration, and this week the Senate is incredibly busy going through Trump's candidate or cabinet picks. And today we had Hegseth gave his confirmation hearing, which I feel so bad for him because he basically spent the entire time going, yes, Mr. Republican Senator, I agree DEI is bad, or having a woman Democrat senator going, you hate women for not letting them fight in Afghanistan. What's wrong with you? And I feel so bad.
I watched 5 minutes and I gave up watching. I couldn't watch it because every time it was like Duckworth would say something like what the hell are you talking about? Like she brought up like the random, I think it's ASEAN EAN organization or whatever. It's like, that has nothing to do with defense. It's an economic pact. It's like, what are we doing here? This is just a joke. And they kept bringing up racism, sexism, and one implied that he would have actually shot protesters or something.
Yes, the one where she's like, if Trump gave you the order to shoot a protester in the leg, would you shoot him in the leg? Like, I don't remember, the Secretary of Defense walking around D.C. with a rifle next to the president. I don't think that's their role, but okay.
I mean, these people are, I think he's going to make it through. I think
he will. Joni Ernst, who was the only Republican who publicly was like questioning him, announced, I'll vote for Hegseth.
Yeah, at that point, even if you have both,
he's confirmed there.
If you have Murkowski and Collins, it's still 50-50, or it's enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, so I think Hegseth could get through. But there are a couple other ones that we don't know about. Well, we have a good idea, but there's still that weird chance. I think Hegseth there's a chance he could go down, but after today, I think he's gonna barely get it.
I think he has the votes today. Hegseth was the riskiest, dare I say, traditional Republican, or the riskiest person who still identified as a Republican, because the other risky ones are Tulsi and RFK, who I think Tulsi now is technically a Republican.
Yeah, so
they've been independents for a while, which doesn't bode well. But I think they'll make it.
I think RFK's got it. I think enough Democrats going to vote for him. That's what's going to save him. There's I think it's up to 7 Democrats now that have said they're going to vote for him. I could be wrong, but it's for sure 3 or 4, I believe.
Yeah, I think RFK has enough friends in the Democratic Party that also are fine with him, because the smart thing he's doing is he isn't talking about vaccines as much.
Food and health.
He's talking about food, which is the smartest thing he can do, because that goes ahead, and as long as his hearing is focused on food, which it won't be, I'm sure
they're gonna burn the vaccine.
Someone will try up a gotcha moment with him. If he focuses on food, I think he'll be able to pass, which he should. I think it's a very important part of the Trump Make America Healthy thing, is getting our food to not have petroleum-based
all he has to do is just bring up what they do in Europe. Every European country, they have the standards he's pushing for. That's what he has to say.
Yeah, and I mean, all the manufacturers can make it. You know, they clearly make European versions of it, and even then, you know, it's at the bare minimum, get the dyes that are literally made out of gasoline out of our food. I
Mm.
don't think that's too much to ask. You know, we can worry about seed oils and whatnot, slowly but surely. You know, I'd love McDonald's to go back to beef tallow or whatever, because that's just tastier food, and
Healthier.
it's healthier. They just do it because you can get seed oil for pennies on the dollar at that
Yeah,
level.
you save a penny for it. That's what it comes down to. They save like a penny, if that.
Yeah, and then of course there's Tulsi Gabbard, who
I
I
think she's the
she'll
riskiest one
also.
right now. I
Mm,
think Gabbard's the least likely.
she probably is the riskiest. She'll probably be the closest to just 50 votes, but I think she'll have like a couple Dems be okay with her, which will help her out a lot. I think it's going to be like McConnell. I think someone like McConnell, like traditional, you
Yeah, the
know,
boomer
oh,
cons.
we need to go bomb Russia tomorrow type of Republican will be her biggest obstacle. But she already said, like, hey, you know, instead of completely getting rid of FISA, let's work on meaningful reforms on it, which should help her get those type of people votes.
Yeah, I'm hoping she gets through, but I think I think she's the least likely. I still think she gets in,
Yeah,
but
I agree with you.
the fact the FBI is playing their games right now, I mean, with this background checks or playing their shenanigans right now, I mean, it's just unbelievable. But I'm not surprised, honestly, that the FBI is doing their crap. But
I'm not either. I think of all. You want to say something?
no, I think she's gonna make it through. You're gonna see like a McConnell type vote against it, but I think you're gonna see something like Bernie Sanders save her. It'd be like Bernie Sanders or
Bernie Sanders. I think
Yeah.
Fetterman will actually vote for quite a few of the Trump nominees,
I
because
don't think Tulsi.
I don't know about Tulsi.
I don't think so.
What's Tulsi's stance on Israel?
Well,
I don't know off the top of my head.
Tulsi is very.
That would,
we all know she's very interested
name.
in certain Middle Eastern countries, but
Yeah.
well, she was. Anyways,
I don't know. I think of all the Trump cabinet picks, I think Rubio, because I think Dick Durbin today announced he's going to vote for Rubio.
it's
I think
probably
Rubio will
unanimous.
get the.
There's a chance it's unanimous.
I would like to see that, because I don't know if any of Trump's cabinet picks have ever been unanimous. I think most of them have always been like tooth and nail. He has to fight for them, but except for the worst of his cabinet picks.
Yeah, it's the absolute garbage ones that those are easy to get through. But yeah, I think there's gonna be a couple Democrats, of course, they're always gonna vote against it. But I would be surprised if it's like very close to unanimous, like 95 seats or
Yeah,
senators or
I think
something.
Rubio can get it. He's qualified, but I think most importantly, he's also a senator. So like
And people like him.
he's talked to everyone in that chamber at least once. So he should be golden.
And people just like him in the Senate. That's another reason.
I
But-
mean, he seems like a chill guy. So
yeah, we're gonna. So Rubio's gonna get in. So outside of Tulsi Gabbard, there's no one really at risk, unless some crazy scandal comes out, which is knowing the FBI,
You
it's
never know.
entirely possible. But
But also at the same time, you know, this kind of harkens back to Trump's popularity, is the amount of quote resistance to him is so much less than 2016.
Yeah.
It's even less than 2020 when he was out of office.
I mean, even with
You know,
Hegseth, like they didn't really talk about Trump that much. It was just going after Hegseth, which is not usually the case with Trump picks. It's usually about, well, Trump is a dictator. Well, they did have the protester thing, but outside that, they didn't really talk with Trump.
That's one question out of all the questions, which is pretty good. Most of it was just women Democrat senators screeching at him for not wanting women in combat roles as much.
Yeah, and
which
is
should be
just
sensible, but
again, it's a whole different debate. But I mean, they wasted everyone's time with that hearing. What was the point?
yeah, that's something I've actually grown to hate a lot. Is modern day Senate hearings are more or less senators just getting the soundbite that their party needs and not actually talking to the candidate. All the talking with the candidate happens with the people of the same party behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just there to get a soundbite,
It's
even
soundbites
from
and
our
fundraising.
side.
Sound bites
You know,
and fundraising.
I watched a little bit of it, and one of the Republican senators interrupted Hegseth giving an answer because he's like, "Oh, hold up, I gotta mention I hate DEI and I don't like women in combat zones." And I'm like, yeah, I get it, dude. You need your soundbite. I think you're up for re-election, but at least pretend that this is like you guys haven't talked about this in private, and this is supposed to be like a big hearing or whatever.
Yeah, and the committee hearings are a joke now. If you're not going to take it seriously, and like the whole point of committee hearings is to learn stuff. If everyone knows it already behind closed doors, what's the point? What are the point of these public hearings?
Have hey, let's. Okay, we're done. Instead of our answering of questions that aren't actual questions, but are rather just people trying to get sound bites for their next ad.
Yeah, I mean, just get rid of the hearings. If no one's going to take it seriously and that's what they're going to do with it, just get rid of it. You're going to save everyone a bunch of money and time.
Yeah, they've become outdated. But yeah, all of Trump's cabinet picks have also been phenomenal. There isn't anyone I really dislike. There's a few weaker picks, but some of his picks are really good.
Some of them I just don't know enough about to give an honest opinion. We got to wait and see. But yeah, I think he's outside of like one or two of them that are very questionable. I think it's been basically on the money with all of them. Even with Rubio, and I know Rubio has his track record of foreign policy is definitely iffy, but it seems like he's actually gotten better on the issue. So
yeah, Rubio was definitely someone who saw the Trump movement happening and adapted to it rather than being like the other Republicans who have been around and been elected for a while. He has been the most, and that's probably because he's a bit on the younger side amongst that class of Republicans, because he was elected to the Senate rather young. He saw what was happening and he was willing to work with it rather than sit in the back and go like, well, this is temporary, until the youth go back and for like a Reagan style Republican like myself. Trust me, guys, I'm like 80. I've been in the Senate for 4 decades. Just a little bit longer, and we'll be back to Reaganism, Bushism.
Reagan is literally dead, but that's what these people operate on. And Rubio, I just think he's the only one with half a brain to understand that. Oh wait, being like the Reagan Republican's not the cool thing. It's not popular anymore. I should probably switch my agenda or policy a little bit, because he wants to run for president.
Which I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I don't mind. Like, everyone calls politicians who change their mind like that grifters. I'm okay with it as long as it ends up helping in like actual ways. Like, it's actually they start voting that way. A lot of people call Nancy Mace, South Carolina Congresswoman, a grifter because she went from impeaching Trump to being like, I am pro MAGA, which, is she grifting because she wants to run for higher office?
She's running for governor.
Yeah, so. 100%, almost certainly. Do I care? Not really, because she's had a very solid voting record. She's helped pass American First ideas. If she keeps it up, good. If she goes back to her old ways, boot her via primary.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with, like, if they actually have a change of heart and start being good, who cares? Who cares if they're fake or real about it? It's like, if they're actually voting that way and pushing that agenda, that's a good thing.
Yeah, in the end, we win because we have another vote. I'm cool with that. If they're doing it because they want to run for office, well, good news. They're going to have to continue doing that the entire time they're seeking higher and higher positions or re-election. When they become lame ducks, will they revert back? Maybe, maybe not. But we could get like a solid decade of Nancy Mace being super based until she becomes a lame duck governor who doesn't want to run anymore. And then she's like, whatever. I don't care anymore.
All right. Well,
that's the end result. I think that's everything we wanted to cover for today.
That's everything.
So, yep. I've been Mark. This has been my co-host, Real. And thank you for watching America First Insight Unfiltered Episode 3. You can go ahead, follow us on X. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, we also have a YouTube channel. And Real, you can go ahead and plug in your stuff.
Of course, follow me at Real Political Data on Twitter, Real P Data. Of course, YouTube is Real American. I'm back on the daily content. And those areas. Follow me. Of course, follow us on America First Insight. And I believe that's it.
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Real, thank you for being here.
That's a wrap. Thanks for the ride. Catch you next time. Same place, same vibe. We're Signing off, but don't you stray. America's voice every day. Keep it real.